Yeah, a lot of people are talking about, I don't know, infras are boring and all of that, but like I don't think infras are boring, but I think there's like some problems, and encryption is like one of the things that can enable some new applications or like make some applications that are already existent like a little bit better, and also like a lot of fun applications. It's not just like DeFi. So I think like there is like two fundamental issues with encryption space in general. The first issue is like it's like heavily misunderstood. There's a lot of misconceptions, like arguments about, even from the most technical people in the space. And there's also the issue of inaccessibility in general that makes it like really hard to build or like use encryption. And I'm going to start with like a couple of misconceptions and talk about the inaccessibility issue and how we are taking some steps to solve that. So first of all, the first misconception that I see is that like most people think that like whenever you mention encryption or privacy or anything similar, they just like completely think about like Tornado Cash or like ZK or like Nameda, like this kind of projects, which is specifically a very like, so first of all, it's just ZK, and also it's just anonymous transfers, right? So I think there's like multiple layers of privacy. So we have IP level privacy projects like NIM or like Tor, VPNs are protecting you. Maybe like it makes sense if you want to connect to MetaMask from the US, you should use like NIM. That's like another issue, right? So there is like addresses, there is a lot of projects like, I don't know, privacy pools like Vitalik, like Armin Soleimani are working on that. There's like Tornado Cash, there is like better versions of that, like all of the Cosmos projects in general. And there's like encryption in the contents of a transaction, or some people call it like confidentiality, but it's not a term that also, it's not clear anymore. And there is all kind of projects, including TEs, including like MPCs, including threshold effigy, which is like MPC for me. And all of them are protecting the contents of the transaction. It doesn't have like by default anything to do with the addresses or like IPs. It's like HTTPS, right? And the other thing is not the only application that we are talking about is not just hiding transfers or like private transfers or like DeFi, right? There's all kind of applications all the way from like the most nerd sniping, like Ethereum Foundation applications, like preconfs that can make like seal bid auctions and like make the bid and the, like encrypt the lane of transactions, and to like very degenerate style applications like on-chain gaming or like seal bid auctions for like NFTs or like even mystery boxes on-chain. And like more like research stuff like leaderless auctions, like Paradigm, we're talking about that. Solving the last look problem in auctions, or like incentive aligned auctions, second price auctions. It has a lot of, in general, encrypted limit orders that you can encrypt your order, and while your order is waiting in the mempool, you are not leaking your strategy. So it's like a glorified definition of MEV in general. And the second thing is just like my mental space about encryption and privacy and the applications. So encryption and privacy are not the same thing. It's just like there are some overlaps, and encryption is not just like DeFi, or like privacy is not DeFi, and like yeah, there's like some like overlaps as you can see, and like this is what we are doing, the encryption one. So we are doing some stuff with DeFi, some other applications. Some of the applications have something to do with privacy, but like very corner cases of our applications, not all of them. And the other thing is like, for some reasons, like people are incentivized because of VCs or like companies or to sell that, to sell the idea that if we are doing TEs or ZK or like FHE or like MPC, we are solving all of the problems all at once, right? We are solving everything. It's the fastest, it's the greatest. It's going to be like, I don't know, 0.005 millisecond of delay and everything. But that's not the truth. Like in cryptography, historically, there is no like one-size-fits-all solution. There is no like general-purpose cryptography solution. There is always tailored solutions. You can't beat that, like theoretically. And all of these tools, including ZK, TE, I don't know, MPCs, are fundamental. Like in the first place, they are solving completely different problems. Sometimes they can solve the same problem, but it's like some of the applications. The general one is like an overkill. It's like opening a door with an axe when you can easily open the door, right? And yeah, the way that I think is like a toolbox. You have different kind of tools. Sometimes you can use the same two tools for the same problem, but there is always the better tool, right? The optimized tool for solving problem. Sometimes you can combine ZK or TE together, or like MPC and ZK2 together to open a better, I don't know, harder problem, right? And yeah, so, and also when we talk about encryption, it's not ZK, and in fact, ZK is not even encryption. Scientifically, ZK is not encryption. When we talk about ZK voting mechanisms, there is no, it's anonymity of your vote. There is no sealing of your vote. So it's still funny. It's still other people can, I don't know, incentivize you, or you can tell them that I've actually voted for your party, please airdrop me. And the other thing is that is really annoying is a definition of MPC. So in general, MPC is the worst name in that you can talk about, because MPC is we have 2 PCs garbled circuits, we have 3 PCs WorldCoin, we have 5 PCs, we have I don't know, 100 PCs, and you shouldn't put them in the same basket, talk about them with same narratives, right? And in crypto specifically, it's even worse, because we have teams like Fireblocks and other people who talk about MPCs in the sense that it's just signatures. And I'm sure if you go there and talk about MPCs, everyone thinks it's just threshold signatures, and also including multi-sigs, which is not MPC. And it's the way that I see is signatures is just a glorified MPC, but a very kind of niche market. It's not some cryptographers don't even call it MPC. But anyways, we have this kind of cute little birds for me that these are actual MPCs that you can, by MPC I mean that it's multiple parties, they have their own private inputs, you can compute over encrypted data, they can decrypt together, right? So we have identity-based encryption, FHE, and all of SpeedZ, and 20 more algorithms that are, everything has their own trade-offs, right? And these are the lists of the good ones that I know personally, TFHE, BGV, BFE, CKKS are FHE algorithms. All of them are MPCs. They are the same thing, right? And we have threshold IB, witness encryption. Some people call it witness encryption. Some people call it conditional decryption. And they're the same thing. Yeah. So the way that I think about all of these MPCs in general, or even just about the MPCs, is that there's a space, trade-off space between usability in terms of what you're actually going to solve, the application, and the security of the system in terms of how big is your set, the threshold of that, and what are the honest majority assumption, and how you are solving that. It's not fundamentally a problem that you can't solve, but there's a price for that, right? And there's the performance. The performance means the delay, the computation over them, and the bandwidth overhead, and all of that. So as an example, when we do IB, our bandwidth overhead is 99% less than FHE, because we decrypt it in the whole batch together, right? But FHE is a general sense, thing that we can potentially use AI inference on that too, right? The interesting thing that I've learned recently is that there is some general MPC algorithms, but historically none of them really work, because you can't beat TSS with general MPC. Theoretically in the academic paper it can work, but it doesn't really beat that, because it's a tailored solution. And I think also about the security one, there is some applications like gaming or voting. You don't really need to have $200 billion of real estate security for the gaming or voting. So you should pay the correct amount, right, for the security. Some of the Cosmos chains, you can even lose the security of the whole chain with, I don't know, maybe $1 million. You can buy, I don't know, 3 of their validators, and they have 7 validators. So for that chain, you don't really need to just spend $100 billion of security and honest majority assumption for a simple game, right? So that's what I'm talking about in the trade-offs. And this is just to make it even more confusing. There is identity-based encryption, fully homomorphic encryption, and ZK. And my interesting thing, personal take about that and the trade-offs is that with ZK you can do a lot of stuff as long as the data or the computation it's in your hand, right? You can prove the computation as long as it's your own, right? You can prove something about your identity technically as long as you have the card, right? But you can't do anything in the multiplayer setup. So if you want to have a multiplayer game, a multiplayer DeFi dark pool, or DeFi protocol, an auction, a voting mechanism that actually makes sense, you can't just simply use ZK. You can combine it, but like the actual thing that you need is like MPCs, like FHE or like identity-based encryption. And that's like one of the things that like a lot of people are confused about. And the other thing is that in general, when you talk about privacy, it's cool to talk about, it's like a new technology. Like remember my grandmother, she was really afraid of microwaves, or like some old people they're really afraid of cars. They think that they're, I don't know, run by, I don't know, evil or something, at least in my country. And and right now there's a lot of people who are afraid of AI and like how it's going to like, I don't know, hit them to the wall with the autonomous driving. So like we've historically learned that that's not the truth, but it's like more interesting to talk about like, I don't know, apocalypse situations or like bad applications or like nuclear wars and that kind of stuff. So that's like part of the reason, but also we've really seen like the worst examples possible in the crypto scene. We've seen like tornado cash and how they're, and like we generalize it to everything. And everyone is like, yeah, I get it, it's not everything, but like their minds are really biased about the encryption thing. And it's like really annoying because whenever you talk with someone, they're just putting everything inside the same basket. And it's like talking about crypto and Bitcoin and just saying that it's just Silk Road, right? And you get that it's really not the case, right? And in general, the interesting thing is that the problems that we've seen is just ZK and the very specific application like Tornado Cache. And even in that protocol, there's like privacy rules that Vitalik is working on, and it's not like that big problem anymore. You can, I don't know. But that's like a very specific niche application. And before, like even after that, we have, so that's just DeFi and ZK. And even in DeFi applications, we can have a completely compliant solutions because in some solutions, we have pre-execution privacy. After the fact, we have like completely transparency. There's no problems. And we can have also DIDs and match them with confidential smart contracts, regulatory smart contracts that enforce the real world I don't know, problems like 10K rules or the OFAC sanction and everything, whatever you want, inside the smart contract, right? So you can just reinvent that on-chain without actually decrypting the transactions. So, and in other applications like gaming and voting, nobody really cares about the regulatories. Like, I don't know, the US government is not coming after you if you are building a game with an NPC. And the other observation is that in the real world, the US government, all of the governments, all of the companies, everyone is using encryption. It's not like a bad thing, right? So just want to make it clear. And actually, you can get into trouble by not having encryption. If you're running a centralized sequencer and you're handling, I don't know, European data inside the US, I think a lot of people are doing that. Eventually, you may find yourself like with like, I don't know, data manipulation risks, I don't know, charges, or like a lot of other stuff that sometimes happen. And we can have, yeah, like Nicola from Protocol Labs talks about this a lot. Yeah, that's my grandmother, and I was talking about her. The other thing is like a lot of people automatically think that when you have like encryption, it means like bad UX or something. So we've seen it in like Web 2. We don't have like problem with like UX when you have HTTPS. It's in our browser. We don't really see a problem. And it's the same thing with things like FHE or like IB, because it's still public key cryptography. It's a little bit more advanced, but the delay on the user side is just 5 milliseconds. So you don't barely see that. And to prove that, we've built like demos that you can try and see that it's like true, right? So the only thing that people see so far is the ZK ones that you need to send it to, like, to RISC-0 or have a Giga machine, or you should be a Giga brain to use that. So it's not true about everything in cryptography, right? Or even if you are interacting with the TE, it's just like really easy. It's not something that breaks the UX. And in fact, in some applications, having encryption improves the UX. So for example, on Stargaze, like there's an MEV problem for like NFT auctions, right? Yeah. People manipulate that, right? So if you have sealed auctions, you can solve that problem. Actually, like in voting mechanisms on Cosmos Hub, which is probably like the most active like governance proposals, a lot of people are manipulating the whole voting mechanism. They like wait for the very, very last second to just like, I don't know, change the results, airdrop the people who are like voting yes and all of that. But with encryption, you can have like something that makes a little bit more sense, right? Yeah. And you can build applications with excitements and like, I don't know, something that like just reveals and all of the community are excited about, which is like other UX, and also like when psychologically, when you are interacting with a DeFi application and you see that it's encrypted and there's not a lot of shady block builders or something happening in the background, you feel like more trusting the application more, and it's more explainable. So I feel like I talk about it like US versus Europe. Like when you are here, you're paying, like, I don't know, paying for your food, like the taxes are included, there is no hidden fees, there is no like garbage fees, but in the US we are tipping, I don't know, like the barber, the Uber, there is like, I don't know, Ticketmaster fees. So Ethereum is like somehow like that today. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background and it doesn't feel good, even for technical people. And I can't imagine that normal users are really trusting all of those fees that's happening there. And like encryption solves some of those problems. And okay, so about the inaccessibility, for the very same reason that we don't see a lot of people in these rooms, in the workshops, we have the same problem with encryption, because here the talks are in the layer 2s, in the second floor, and it's like in the backstage, so not a lot of people actually find the room, right? So we have the same problem with encryption, right? Because there is like very interesting projects like Penumbra or like Nameda, but like in the mind of the user, it's like the whole space is here and like Penumbra is like there, right? And you should like migrate from your actual chain. There's no builders, there's no applications to use that. And both the technical, financial, and psychological cost of migration is really high, right? So the way that it works is just bringing it to the users where they are, right? Like funny joke that I'm making is that like a lot of projects are saying that if you come to my room, we can do a lot of fun stuff, we can protect you. But like what we're actually trying to solve is that we should go to the streets where there's actual people and shops and protect them in the streets, not like asking them to come to my own room and make money, right? So my vision in general for Web3 is that like in Web2, there's like 95% of the messages and everything in internet or like messaging apps everything are encrypted. Most of the people don't even know that. Even my grandmother is using advanced cryptography in the browser, right? But she doesn't know that because it's seamless, it's already integrated, right? So that's what we need, and there's a lot of more reasons that we need it. We need it more into Web3 because of the financial applications, the decentralization, and all of the risks that are associated with that, right? And in general, what I want to see like about encryption space, having it like everywhere, like in the actual major chains, like major L2s and like major L1s, and making it simple and fully compliant and programmable. Programmable in the sense of like selective disclosure and computation over encrypted data, not programmability of ZK. And the thing that we are talking about is modular encryption in the sense that we have like Celestia, it's solving a very niche problem of DA. We have Axelar and Wormhole. They are solving like cross-chain transfers with threshold signatures. Both of them are Cosmos chains, but like an ecosystem, right? They are providing a service to other major projects and abstracting away some stuff that are natively either expensive or impossible. So for encryption and MPC, I think the thing that makes the most sense is not enshrining it in Ethereum mainnet or somewhere. We need something like, I don't know, some people call it coprocessor, some people call it like modular chains or whatever. We need something that basically takes care of the computations on MPCs, things that are like expensive or there's like high bandwidth overhead or it needs to be put faster than usual, right? So in Fairblight, we take care of the computations in our own chain, right? We have like a fairy ring chain, which is Cosmos chain. We don't have like applications on top of that. And we take care of the computations, and then like L2s like on Arbitrum, Lorkit, or like other Cosmos chains or I don't know, OPS stack, they can connect to us and they can natively receive and process encrypted transactions, but we generate the keys or like other cryptography hard things. And this is like a couple of the applications to just make it more real for you. So we integrated with CoSwap for encrypting your orders, and then like they can be decrypted and executed once some conditions like prices or like on-chain conditions like rebalancing or time is happening, we can decrypt and execute them. So basically hiding your strategies while they're waiting for execution on-chain. The second application is like our work with the slots community, which is basically a murder mystery game. Everything is on-chain. So you can read the story and then like there's like some time to decide, and then you can find your suspect. And when you choose the actual murderer, it will encrypt it, and nobody can see your hand. Nobody can see who is your suspicion, right? And once it's decrypted, it will say you that, I don't know what happened, right? And there's like this is like an example of how you can use encryption for like a fun application, some kind of Solana style applications, right? And then there is the like serious application of private voting is already working for like Cosmos Hub, so other people can see your hand like real world. And this is the randomness generation that we use based on Fairblocks like key generation that we have. Yeah, that's all. Thank you so much.